Jameni watu wa hii dunia, si mutanimaliza na majina. Sasa majina mumenipatia nyingi. Sasa nilikuwa na jina William, ingine Kipchirchir, ingine Samoei, ingine Ruto, mukaongeza Hasla, mukaongeza Survivor, mukaongeza Sakayo. Sasa mumefika Kasongo. Sasa hii majina yote bado muko na ingine ama imetosha? Bado iko ingine mnanipatia ama imetosha? Iko ingine mtaongeza? Nasikia hata mwingine anasema chapati. Sasa hii chapati tena ni gani? Kasongo ye babali nangai. Salala. Hii dunia iko na maneno. Lakini majina si haja. Si bora tunyoroshe kazi jameni. Kenya iweze kusonga mbele. Tuunganishe taifa letu. Mimi nawapenda sana.
Sasa tulipolazimisha hao kukubali tuwe na mfumo wa siasa yenye vyama vingi, haikuwa rahisi. Tukawa na uchaguzi mwaka 92, mliona matokeo yake. Alafu ikaja ile ya 97, mliona matokeo yake. Hiyo 97, mimi na hakika kama hawange ongeza siku ambayo waliongeza kwa sababu ya mvua, tulisema na mvua, Kibaki alikuwa ameshinda. Kibaki ndiye alishinda hiyo uchaguzi. Uchaguzi ambayo imekuwa naitwa free and fair tangu tulete hii mfumo wa siasa yenye vyama vingi ni 2002. Hiyo peke yake. Hizi zingine zote unajua SK mwambie nyinyi. SK mwambie nyinyi. Kwa hivyo mimi usimwambie mimi nataka mimi nishinde. Mimi sashinda mara mingi. Sijatangazwa tu. Mimi najua mwaka juzi tulikuwa nasema funguni 7. Tulisema funguni 7. Maana tulikuwa najua ndani ya 7 kuna ukweli. Walifungua. Lakini muhimu ni kwamba Kenya ni mkubwa kushinda sisi zote. What's important is democracy is a project. It's not an instant coffee that you brew and drink at the same time.
Welcome to Fireside, the home of politics, policy, and polity. Now, research indicates that the Fireside is rocking the boat in the political space in Kenya. And Mwangale, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Professor Owidi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
So to hit the ground running, Mheshimiwa Owidi.
Yes.
How many principal secretaries do you know?
Do I know? Just a handful, actually.
How many?
Maybe if I scrutinize my head to remove whatever is hiding in there, maybe I would get to 12, 13.
Out of a possible 55, 56?
Yeah, some I just hear about them, I don't know them. But I think it's in order because they are technocrats.
Wakili, how many principal secretaries do you know?
I would say a handful in the real definition of a handful. Owidi knows more than a handful. I know a few. Belio Kipsang, Beatrice Nyangala, Nixon Korir at Lance, Who else? Mariru at Defense.
Go to Treasury.
You've actually answered the question. How many cabinet secretaries do you know?
Well, I know all of them.
You know all of them?
Yes.
You can pick them at a shopping mall.
Yeah, yes, I can. Except the cabinet secretary for water.
Okay.
Wow. That's my cabinet secretary.
Unfortunately, I can't.
Unfortunately.
It's the one you should know first.
Owidi, how many cabinet secretaries do you know?
I know practically all of them, but if you ask me to list them, somewhere I will get lost. But if you present them before me, I'll tell you, oh, that's so and so.
Now that brings us to the conversation that we are talking about President Ruto's record midterm. Now, if the two of you who are politically literate in Kenya, informed with the decision-making infrastructure in Kenya, policy-making infrastructure in Kenya, if you don't know these persons who are supposed to speak on behalf of their state departments, principal secretaries, and cabinet secretaries who speak on behalf of their ministries, then how will Kenyans know what state departments have done or what cabinets, or rather what ministries have done?
You can know what the government is doing without just knowing who is implementing what the government is doing. That is possible. You can forgive those who don't know who is the principal secretary. I remember there was a story once said that when you go to London in the streets, just pick any 3 people at random. You'll find 2 of them don't know who is the Prime Minister of the UK. 2 of them. That is how bad it can be in some countries where everybody minds their own businesses. Even right here, I am sure there are teachers who have no idea who is the PS for basic education. They are teachers. Watch just anybody in the streets, teachers, walimu. So that is possible. But again, it is not a good thing when you are a citizen of serious repute. You need to know who are your leaders. PS, CS, those are people should know.
Is it the citizen who needs to know these people, or is the office holder who is supposed to make sure that he or she is known by the citizens?
By the nature of work of the PS, it is not really them. The CS, yes, because they are policy people. But these technocrats, some of them just stay indoors. Like take to CS Finance. You know, CS Finance is the only executive CS among them. Is their accounting officer. And
Dr. Chris Kipto.
Yes, and the only one people know, like everyone, is the current one. But the ones who have been there before have been very busy in offices until you only hear about them when we are reading budget or when there's something serious about fiscal policy or anything like that.
Wakili, March 12th was midterm for the Kenya Kwanza administration, and they came up with a number of statistics. And one of them that Owidi likes to really flow, like a dead horse, is about the cost of unga. He says the cost of unga has come down. And according to official statistics, when the Kenya Kwanza took over, it was 230 for 2 kilos. And it's gone down to 140. And they also talk about the exchange rate. When they took over, it was 160 against the US dollar. And now it's come to 129. Would you say those 2 achievements is something to write home?
Well, let me begin on this note that if anyone wanted to win an election, you want to win an election whether as president, whether as member of parliament, and you needed a political virtuoso, one who would, give you the inroads in a particular place, tell you how to handle different political and vote baskets, you look for William Ruto. But if you wanted to run a government, you'd stay away from William Ruto, because winning an election and running a government successfully are 2 totally different things. Now, having said that, the price of unga can go down in the harvest months, because anyway, there's an oversupply of maize on the market. Millers are buying at cheap prices, or they're importing at cheap prices, and then that has a net effect on the price of unga. But when you look at the overall price of commodities, we are still where we were, or at least we haven't made much progress, or progress that I would call, heavy 3 years down the line after the Kenya Kwanza government took office. But for us to really judge William Ruto's government, we have to look at their manifesto. The Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. It's an over 80-page document.
They call it the plan.
Yes, the plan. Now, unfortunately for us, not just for William Ruto, not even for Uhuru Kenyatta and the second term of Kibaki, these manifestos are not political documents. They are not political creations. They are academic documents. And one would be forgiven, looking at the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, one would be forgiven to think that that manifesto, that document, is a second-year university economics term paper, because it is very heavy on theory, but very light on practicality and reality. The Kenya Kwanza government, or their manifesto, had 4 pillars. They had agriculture. They were talking about how they were going to revive agriculture, how they were going to reduce the price of inputs, which are still where they were. The price of fertilizer, if you take away the subsidies, and subsidies is not really making the price lower. You're just providing an artificial cushioning. When that cushioning is removed, say you have other external factors that come in and you're unable to cushion, we'll still get back to the same place we were. They talked about land utility, and I remember very clearly reading in that document that they were going to establish a land consolidation scheme. They were going to use the model that was there. In fact, it was laughable reading it then, that one of the things they quoted was the British leaving the country when we were getting independence, where we were provided with, the government of Kenya was provided with certain amounts of money to buy off land from the settlers. And that is what the Kenya Kwanza government was looking at. They have not achieved that. We have not gotten to a point where we are consolidating land for agriculture. In fact, what we are seeing increasingly is that fragmentation and subdivision of land in agricultural areas is on the rise. You look at social media, look at mainstream media, and the amounts or the number of plots that are being sold out in the traditionally agricultural areas are on the rise. If you fragment the land, you're going to hurt agricultural production. They talked about SMEs, small and medium enterprises, and that promise was designed around the Hustler Fund. In fact, by the way, the Hustler Fund was not meant for individuals. If you look at the design of the plan, it was meant for businesses. It was meant for SMEs. It was meant for women-led businesses, PWD-led businesses, and so on. But then in the implementation, it was the fund was now being given to individuals who have defaulted to a tune of, I think, around 6 billion, between 6 and 8 billion, which is a disaster. 8 billion is a lot of money for government to lose in bad debts. So if we were to judge William Ruto's government from the time they took over to now, we will not even use the lofty standard where we are saying the president or the government should have worked towards national unity, they should have stabilized the economy, they should have reduced corruption and cut down wastage. Those are too lofty standards to use on William Ruto's government. We will judge them on their manifesto. And if we were to judge them on their manifesto, they fall flat. They have implemented this plan in shreds. It appears as though the people who are tasked with implementation did not participate in making the plan. So you have somebody rising up one day and saying, we are going to implement this. There are people who are crying foul in the background because that was not the plan they had agreed on in the first place. Another comes and says, no, what the other person had announced is not really what the government is doing. It is a different thing. Take an example of the housing project. In the manifesto, again, there was something about rural housing. They were also talking about how rural housing was going to be segmented across the country. Nothing happened. Now we are seeing houses being built, in the urban areas, And it's also a disaster. The houses that have been taken over by citizens who paid, are being managed poorly. What they should have actually been implementing was reducing the cost of construction, which is not being happened. They are talked about, it's not happening. They are talked about it in the manifesto again. They talked about, positioning in line with manufacturing, positioning Kenya to a level where we are manufacturing more construction material so that we are able to even export.
Yeah, actually, talking about the building sector.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the kind of scholars you speak with, the tax component in a house, it's about 60%.
Yeah.
So if you actually reduce the tax component, then housing becomes affordable to majority of people.
Yeah.
But you've raised a very fundamental point that if somebody looks at the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, it would appear that it was done by a second-year student. But I suspect you are alive to the fact that President Ruto, in fact, did country-wide tours, and he went to, President Ruto and his principals, they went to every county and collected views. So we were made to understand that, in fact, the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto reflected and captured the aspirations of Kenyans across all counties, as well as special interest groups. So are you suggesting that after getting all this information, they gave it to a second-year student?
Well, the manifesto, it's not our fault that the manifesto reads like a second-year term paper. That is their fault. But Raila Odinga was also moving around the country saying he was collecting views, and the result of the views was that he signs an MOU with Ruto. Uhuru Kenyatta, when they were campaigning, told us that they were going around the country trying to, in their rallies, trying to see what the people wanted. Then they gave the work to Cambridge Analytica, who came up with their manifesto. So when these people talk about going around and collecting views, in some cases, it will be incidental that what the people want is what has been crafted already.
Now, before Owidi comes in, the last few days, the newspapers, radio, and TV, they've had this midterm review. And majority of people have not even paid attention to the numbers coming out. Because, the Kenya Kwanza administration has been giving itself a pat on the back.
Yeah.
And when you speak with people, they say, we cannot trust Kenya Kwanza on this midterm review because of the trust deficit. So there's a very high chance that Kenya Kwanza has done a lot, but there's a trust deficit. Would a reasonable Kenyan believe or trust the figures as given by the Kenya Kwanza administration when they talk about their track record?
Speaking as that reasonable Kenyan, I would not trust those numbers. But there is also something else that goes alongside the trust deficit. When you're talking about the PSs and how Kenyans do not know, many of the PSs or the cabinet secretaries, we have a president who is in almost every public and government function. Whether a ministry is launching, a small project somewhere, the president will be there.
A transformer.
Previously, it was the cabinet secretary who would be at the forefront, or even the permanent secretary, as they were then. But now the president has taken over. And that's what I was saying. The president might be good in political machinations, but he's not a good head of government. We ought to have been seeing the real people doing the jobs coming out to say what they have done. You remember the time when PS Hinga was put to task about the affordable housing project.
And he broke into a sweat.
He was sweating profusely. Because what had been said by the political class, and especially the president, was very different from what he probably understood as a technical person in that ministry. So one of the things that has been a failing of William Ruto's government. Number one, of course, in some places they're not doing the work. In some other places where work is being done, they have a communication problem. This is a government that has probably the most communications people I have seen ever in any unit of government or any organization. The president has his own communications people, State House has its own communications people, cabinet secretaries have their own spokespeople, PSs probably have their own communications people. So they have lumped in communications people who either do not understand what is happening or they're there for a different purpose. And that is really a failure. If you want to win over the people, even with the very little that they have done, it is important that they communicate clearly.
Now, Owidi, before you come in, one of the viewers has indicated that she can predict with 100% of accuracy what you're going to talk about. And she has described you as a sycophant in chief. And I said the Kenya Kwanza administration should shut up and work. Should Kenya Kwanza administration shut up and work?
You know, when people call you a sycophant in chief, you know what they are trying to do? You are trying to intimidate you into silence. They are trying to intimidate you and silence you from saying the truth.
And nobody can intimidate Owidi.
The truth that is bitter to their ears. And you see, one of the problems that I must agree I entered into is this idea of telling you the truth before they are ready to listen to it. I normally tell the people the truth too early, and at that point in time, they do not want. It is just like in the African community, the person who delivered the message that a person is dead, sometimes they even want to stone him because they don't want to believe that is true. They see him as somebody who is bringing death instead of reporting death. Now, that is the problem such a person has, and I have no problem because that is an average mind. One that is above average, think differently. You had asked me a question, but let me tell you something that Mwangale is talking about. The government has a lot of people in communications. They have always been there. But when they don't speak, you don't know they exist. The problem we have with the current government today, the anti-President William Ruto rhetoric is too loud and coming from multiple corners until people think on the government side, nobody is speaking. Until people think those who are speaking anti-president things are the ones who is right. That is the problem we have here today. I wish the citizens of this country would understand that what President William Ruto is going through is different from what all the other presidents went through. For one thing, you can guess what. Look at the headline of the Standard today, this front page, not headline, front page. On top there are four opinion articles, all of them anti-government. Then the headline is even worse. You saw it, I'm sure.
Yes, I did.
It's something watchdog. What did it read?
Greedy watchdog.
Greedy watchdog. Honestly.
But that is about, the conversation is around Mr. Raila Odinga.
Exactly,
and
that is what I wanted you to be the one to mention. Raila Odinga has suddenly become an enemy of the Standard newspapers. He used to be their darling. And you see, the problem is he's become an enemy because he's now on the side of the president. And what infuriated them most is how Raila Odinga spoke at the funeral he was in yesterday. That is what made them so bitter that they came up with that headline about him today.
But Owidi, while holding no brief for the media, the last couple of days, Standard has come up with what one may call very bold headlines. There was a headline around Uganda, around the Auditor General, around the control of budgets. Would you say that all those are anti-Ruto sentiments? And then number two, isn't the responsibility of a communication professional in this administration to craft a solution? I'm using your words, because you said there's anti-Ruto rhetoric. Isn't the responsibility of all the communication professionals to craft a solution for that?
I have publicly and privately told the government that their problem number one is not Rigathi Gachagua. It is not Jubilee. It is not the rebels. It is not the Mount Kenya. President William Ruto problem in this country today is the rogue media. And it is very unfortunate that, including very educated people like myself, yourself, and Mwangale, we treat the media reports the same way pastors and bishops treat the Bible.
Okay, again,
and that is a big mistake.
Again, in the interest of clarity,
yes.
What is your definition of a rogue media?
A rogue media is a media who chooses to kill you and pamper me. The media that we have today has chosen that they must destroy the President of the Republic of Kenya, and anybody who is anti the president is their darling.
So calling
there was
the president.
I saw today Kioni was saying that even if Raila Odinga had decided to abandon them, he needed to have informed them because they went around the country campaigning for him. They are forgetting that this very Gachagua now they are embracing with 2 arms and the mouth is the same one they went around the country campaigning against. And when we tried to oppose that, they were not campaigning against Gachagua, they campaigning against Ruto. They told us that Gachagua was a co-president and each vote given to Ruto, half was for Gachagua. So I think people are speaking from both sides of the mouth, sometimes becoming oxymoronic. So let's just be honest.
So when the media calls a spade, or when they come up with a headline which makes you uncomfortable,
it's not
they fall in the matrix of rogue.
They are rogue. Let me tell you, sometimes the language they use, like when you take the headline today and start reading just the first paragraph that appears on the front page, you get a very interesting word, masquerading, henchmen. What is that language for a proper media? That is the language you find there.
You also have a problem with the grammar.
It's not about grammar. It is about the choice of words they use against personalities. It is rogue. In fact, I used to think the nation had become bad. Standard has got it completely wrong. They have got, in fact, by the time you read it from one page to the middle, you will never find anything worth time. It will be anti-Ruto, anti-government, anti-Ruto, anti-government.
So you'd like a media which will be dancing,
which is balanced
to the administration's
for example, when we have those 4 opinion articles on the top, 2 of them would have been pro-government, 2 are against.
But Owidi, the people who craft those op-eds, they've got agency. I don't think they sit down with the editors and agree this is what I'm doing.
I have myself
week.
sent them very good, well-researched things, and they don't want to publish because it is going to beat the positions which they have picked to take, which they have chosen to take. One of the media houses was telling everyone who cared to hear that Owidi had sworn never to come back to our media house. No, I never even spoke to them. In fact, from the day I became a friend of the president, they have chosen never to call me to their media house.
So as far as you're concerned...
And I don't mind it.
So as far as you're concerned, Kenya Kwanza has done very well.
Very, very well. Let me tell you.
And it's the media.
Let me tell you. Today I was reading somewhere where they were telling us about the reasons why President William Ruto has failed. One of them, they said President William Ruto is a liar because he lied to us that Chief, and the people call it Chief and Shah, it is Chief, is not working. Then I asked them, did UHC worked? Because we all left Nairobi on government vehicles, government air tickets, and government allowances to go and launch universal health care for the country in Kisumu, which was one among the 5 pilot counties. And Kisumu was the one it was launched in. It never saw light of day from the moment the launching ended. But nobody said Uhuru was a liar, who told us we'll now have universal health care where people will be treated. Nobody has called him a liar to date. But when President William Ruto actually launched the new healthcare system, also called Taifa Care, which has so many components, which is working very well, they have chosen to choose the few people who have not managed to get service. They have chosen to talk about private hospitals who are now complaining. I told you here the last time that there are 4,000 health facilities which used to claim NHIF, but immediately shift came. None of the 4,000 health facilities have made a single claim of even 10 bob. What does that tell you? They are the ones that are fighting shift because it has come with a watertight system in which they cannot remove a thorn from your feet and tell us they have done a surgery. So let's...
You've raised a fundamental issue and it cannot go unchallenged.
Yes.
Again, I remember the audience has noticed that anytime we are discussing President Ruto, you drive using a rear view mirror. You have to take us to President Kenyatta. Exactly. You have to take us to President Kibaki. You have to take us to President Moi and Jomo Kenyatta. Why can't you drive using a windscreen?
My friend, if you find a vehicle out there on the road without a rear view mirror, that vehicle will be taken out of the road as unroadworthy. These people have chosen to drivers with front view mirror because the vehicles behind that they don't want to look at, they want to favor them. You see, I had a speech here by my friend Wakili saying that Ruto was very good at winning election but not running the government. Let me tell you, even a very good dog, the day you start telling the youth in the village that it is a wild dog, it is a bad dog, they will start stoning it. And they will believe it is really that bad. What has happened? I told you here before, and I will keep on reminding you until it gets in, because I was taught in the education class that when you find below average students who cannot learn through understanding, you use rote learning. So you repeat it to them multiple times.
So you suspect most Kenyans are below average?
When I was in class 1, we used to be taught about grasshoppers. And we were taught in Luo repeatedly in the morning, grasshoppers eat grass, grass is the food of grasshoppers, until it got in. So here we will keep on reminding you.
It's true that grasshoppers eat grass.
Yes, it is true, but you see, that is why average students never got to know. And you see why they are told it eats grass? So that you know it is their food. If they just told you it's their food, you would not understand why it is their food. So you have to be told it eats grass. Oh, so grass is their food. So anyway, what I am trying to say is that President William Ruto, whatever he has done cannot be evaluated without comparing it with what the other presidents did and didn't get the same backlash. Where am I driving you to? I'm driving you to the point that there are people in this country who cannot stand anybody other than them being the president of Kenya. While it was them who were in the driver's seat in Kenya, they never complained. They never called people liar. Do you know how many times Kibaki called us Mavia Kuku? Do you know it was during President Kibaki? Because they don't want me to compare President Ruto with Uhuru, they want me to go to Kibaki. Kibaki is the one who raided the Standard media. And when his minister for Interior came, he told us, when you rattle a snake, he compared their government to a snake, which when rattled in any way, I don't know how many times you have rattled Ruto and nothing has happened, it will bite you. It was during President Kibaki that his Interior Minister, then Michuki, ordered the police to shoot Masais from behind as they ran away in Enosopukia. And that is the moment, the war between the Masai and the Kikuyu ended. So please, you cannot go forward without checking the rear view mirror and saying, where are we coming from? Are we still on the same route you are, or we have left the route?
So, Owidi, when President Ruto does not deliver, based on his manifesto, which is a contract he signed with the majority of Kenyans, we go back and check out President Kibaki,
I have told you,
Kenyatta, President Moi, President Jomo Kenyatta.
Exactly, I have told you.
So we don't use the manifesto as the framework.
No. Which president delivered according to manifesto? Tell me one and I will tell you how they did deliver.
So Ruto should not deliver?
No, that is not where I'm going to. What I am saying, Ruto is just like any other president we have had before. Not the rhetoric that we are having, people like you saying that Ruto is the only president who can only win election but cannot run a government. If Ruto cannot run a government, then Uhuru cannot run it twice. If Ruto cannot run a government, then Kibaki cannot run it double. That is what I am trying to say. I am trying to say the negativity against President William Ruto we are all listening to is all orchestrated, is all planned, is all weevil, is all selfishness. If you listened to me, I keep on saying Kenya belongs to all of us and we must share its resources. Leadership positions included. But when somebody gets into office today, even before the first budget is read, we were in the streets here telling us how the cost of unga is due, how the cost of fuel is due, how the dollar is high up. Ruto had not even been in the office to find it. In fact, the PSS had not even taken oath of office. I remember very well. That was Raila in the seat. And you know who was driving him? Kioni. Who was driving him? Uhuru. Those are the people behind the Maandamano that when that Maandamano failed, they went and sat back and concocted the Gen Z thing. So this is why I am saying we must look back. And looking back is to tell you that these people who were back before, They were relatives and friends of the very people who are telling us now that President William Ruto is alive. Last week, the media was even praising those who went for maandamano in a church where President Ruto gave 20 million. They forgot that across the road from where they were, at Kasarani Stadium, Uhuru Kenyatta gave 5 acres of land which he declared was worth 100 million to Wakurino. He also gave them 11 million, of which 1 million was for the pastors. And then took 4 people from the Wakurino sect and gave them positions in parastatals and told them vote Raila Odinga. So leave the Raila Odinga bit. If Uhuru Kenyatta did that with public resources worth 100 million, which he declared, and gave them a personal donation of 11 million, and they never thought that was bad. And that was the time Unga had gone to 280 and petrol had gone to 250, and you needed to go into the bush with a kibuyu to find it. And they never complained that it's donating public resources. Yet the cost of living was skyrocketing. And now, when Ruto does half what Uhuru did, you come and tell us he's a bad president, that we should go on the street. And even if you forget that and go back to the Bible, Mwangale, in the book of Chronicles, it is King David who gave 1.3 trillion that built the first temple for the Lord.
Now, Mwangale, that
was a king.
Mwangale, a member of the audience has indicated that Kenya Kwanza should shut up and work. But on the other hand...
why? Let me, before you go on, shut up and work. They were shutting down. In fact, it is them who removed President William Ruto from where I was sitting. President William Ruto is a very intelligent man who knows. If you let them speak without responding, the people will take that as golpes truth. Silence means consent. So if they want President William Ruto to shut up and work, they also must shut up and watch.
You know, one of the reasons we probably have a little miscommunication with Owidi is because of this rear view mirror thing. Owidi says you look into the rear view mirror so that you know whether you are taking the right path or not.
Whether it's oncoming traffic.
My view is slightly different on why we need the rear view mirror. The rear view mirror is not for you to determine whether you're on the right path or not. It is the windscreen that you're supposed to look into to know whether you're on the right path or not. So this preoccupation with presidents of the past, for me, obscures what we need to be really looking at with this government. And you know, at every general election, the people sign a new contract with a new government. So even if Uhuru Kenyatta, Kibaki, Moi, and Jomo Kenyatta were, evil incarnate, both of them combined, the people would still expect that at the general election, they are signing a new contract with a new government, and not, the people who have gone ahead. One of the things that I also find interesting is the fact that proponents of the Kenya Kwanza government, those who are supporting William Ruto, will say that because Uhuru Kenyatta did these things, William Ruto should not be called out for them. Because Uhuru Kenyatta engaged in looting together with William Ruto, because they were together, we should not call out William Ruto for looting.
That is something you can repeat before a judge.
That Uhuru Kenyatta looted, I can repeat that anywhere. He himself admitted that he was losing close to 2 billion a day. Who was in charge of that government? He told us, I am losing 2 billion a day. He didn't account for the 2 billion a day. So where did the money go? If he didn't tell us where the money went, the only reasonable presumption is that he was looting. Whether it was him individually or him through proxy. But what I'm mentioning is this, that we are not calling out William Ruto for the ills in his government or the failings in his government because Uhuru Kenyatta did not do what William Ruto is doing. In any case, by the way, William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta are cut from the same cloth. And I must admit that any other government that was coming in 2022 would have come in at a very difficult time. And that difficult time was contributed to by the Uhuru Kenyatta government, of which William Ruto was a part. When you're talking about the spiraling debt and the interest on debt that was falling due, towards the end of 2022 and beginning of 2023, the people who contributed to that debt were the people who were getting into government in 2022. So yes, they were coming in at a difficult time, but they were cause-setters of what had brought the country to its knees.
But one can argue that in a presidential system, the buck stops with the president.
It does. It really does. And the president here is not just the president, an individual. It is the presidency. So the president together with their deputy president. The other unfortunate bit that we have found ourselves in post-2010 is the fact that while the constitution's architecture was such that you had a deputy, or you should have a deputy president who is subservient to the president, we have a political reality where you have a president and a deputy president who has almost equal following to the president. So they are coming in with their own vote block. They are coming in with their own masses, which is almost equal to the president. That was the same thing that happened with Uhuru and Ruto. Ruto wanted to be president before he decided to be running mate, and his following across the country was almost similar to what Uhuru's following was. So you would not expect that this deputy president would be subservient to the president. It is only now, by stroke of luck, that we have a deputy president whose profile matches the profile of the constitution. That you have a deputy president who is a principal assistant to the president, who carries out functions assigned by the president. It was not so with William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. So when we say Uhuru Kenyatta looted, we know who was launching projects that had not yet been budgeted for. That was admitted on both ends, on Uhuru Kenyatta's end and William Ruto's end. We know, and most Kenyans may not, but those of us who are in these circles know how these monies were being shared at the top. We know who was wielding power at what level. In as much as that may not have come out in the media, these are things that are almost plain to anyone looking into the operations of government. So we are saying Uhuru Kenyatta's failure were also William Ruto's failures. William Ruto will come out and say, in the second term, I was not even in power, I was not doing this, I had been sidelined. But what happened in the first term? The much borrowing that happened in Uhuru Kenyatta's term reached its peak in the first term of Uhuru Kenyatta. So the bottom line is that William Ruto cannot blame Uhuru Kenyatta's government for where it left us. Even though Uhuru Kenyatta's government is to blame for so many things. But you cannot take a part in, robbing my house, and then you come back and tell me, by the way, those things you're looking for, I can help you get them. I know how things work around here. I know the doors to knock. I can help you get back those things. There has to be, number one, an admission that you took part in what we are calling the looting of the Uhuru regime. And you must also stay true to the promises you made. The reason why people call William Ruto a liar is not because anyone wants William Ruto to be painted black. He has done that for himself. William Ruto will tell you something today, and the next day he has changed his mind for no reason. He will tell you, we are going to do this. And, the funny thing about the promises of William Ruto during Uhuru Kenyatta's regime was that most of them were concentrated on infrastructure, on roads. Ruto launched a lot of roads during Uhuru Kenyatta's government. It is those same roads that they were saying in their manifesto that they were going to finish. How many of those roads have been finished? Today, he's still building new roads in the air. The very reason why, you have those sound bites going around him mentioning different towns and shopping centers where roads would pass. There are so many roads that are finished on paper. You go to places like Kakamega County, go to Bungoma County, go to places, Uasin Gishu was a very good infrastructure. You go to places like Kwale and Lamu. In Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, those roads were constructed, but in the air, because William Ruto was there. You have a whole plaque that was put up. This road was opened by His Excellency the Deputy President William Ruto. The road is non-existent, but the plaque is reading, this road was opened, officially opened. This is the mess we are finding ourselves in, and the same thing is happening even when he's superintending over government today.
You raised again another fundamental issue. When you're talking about this midterm review, should it be that it's Kenya Kwanza giving itself a pat on the back and telling us that this is what you've achieved, or should it be an independent audit, an independent opinion, an unbiased view? You know, a third party telling us that this is what Kenya Kwanza promised, this is what they've delivered. Because right now with this trust deficit or trust crisis, if the administration says that they've delivered a certain number of projects, probability of Kenyans taking the word to the bank has been compromised.
Ideally, by the way, government should be coming out to say we have done this, but what they are saying should be verifiable, and we have institutions that can actually verify. You have Parliament, and again, Parliament is very important. We should not be looking to Parliament for anything, at least this Parliament. But Parliament ought to verify some of government's claims. We have other institutions that watch over government spending. And the reason why, these things that William Ruto's government is saying have been done are not verifiable is because you have an Auditor General's report for the year 2022, 2023, 2024, and now 2025, the latest report, telling us that government or the people of Kenya have not been receiving value for money. So when government is coming out to say you have gotten value for money, and you have an independent institution that is trusted more than government is trusted, telling us that we have gone through government expenditure, we have even looked at these projects, and we do not think that Kenyans have gotten value for money. We obviously should believe the Auditor General.
Now, Owidi, a lady by the name Isabel says, as a member of Kenya Kwanza, can you actually name 5 components of the manifesto?
Components of what?
The Kenya Kwanza manifesto, the plan.
Tell Isabel that manifestos in this country are the same. Even if you read the one of 2007 and the ones of today, is the same. So if he wants to appraise herself with those manifestos, he looks at the big 4 agenda of Uhuru Kenyatta. That is what is in all these manifestos: housing, healthcare, manufacturing, and that's what is in all these manifestos. All the other things are colors to make it easy to carry home. Tell her that way. And Mwangale, these reports of the Auditor General and the Controller of Budget and all those, they are playing politics. Those 2 offices are supposed to give a report. That report can only be verified by Parliament, EACC, and DCI through investigations and or debate. That is all. But for people to come and say here that, 1.3 trillion was looted because the Controller of Budget said it was withdrawn through some other means other than the one described in the PFM Act, is to take Kenyans for fools. You see, in this country, number one, the last budget was in excess of 3.6 trillion. So if in 7 months, such kind of money is withdrawn 1.3, which is not even a half of the 3.6 trillion, why are we making noise? And if it is about how it was done, I remember reading that thing. Majority of that money, some were talking about pensions. Most of the pensioners don't even have bank accounts to go through the IFMI system. Majority of the works being done through this are very small. Like in my office, are we going to do impressed through IFMI system? Are we going to give work being done like us we do with what is called public participation a lot, community engagement a lot? Those ones cannot be done through IFMI system. So if up to 1.3 trillion has gone outside that system, that is in order. And if it is not in order, it is not the work of the Auditor General to prove. He is to give us a report, then Parliament will debate that report, and from that debate, we can make a decision. EACC will investigate it if it is too adverse, and from that investigations, we will know what has happened. But to come here and the newspaper scream headlines that 1.3 trillion looted, it is to give us a gutter press reporting system. Even it is this same media that was telling us that the government paid some 104 billion for the Taifa Care. And we all know the system in Taifa Care is simply a PPP. And every person who goes to hospital, part of the money they pay will go to manage this Taifa Care. And this 104 billion is what will have been paid there in 30 years in 47 counties. You can do your math. You know, when Mwangale says that a road is having a plaque reading was opened and there is no road exists, I can tell you for free, and I can bet, you will not find a road that doesn't exist, but this a plaque reading was opened. It can read launched, but not was opened.
What is the difference?
Launch is you start the project. Opened is the project is complete and you make it usable.
So it's possible that they launched and there is nothing there. That's what you're saying. But they didn't open.
No, it is possible. There are many times you have launched projects and stalled. Let me tell you, when I went to Egerton University in 1988, I found a project that was being done there that had stalled there for 3 years. By the time I was graduating, it was still stalled. And that was during the Moi regime. It is possible for governments for money to fail to come, for donors to withdraw their funds. Things like that happen and projects will always stall. Even this Rironi Mau Summit, how many times has it been launched and stalled? Because the donors have withdrawn or have slowed down and things like that. So if we will take such things and put it on the president and say the president's a liar, then we have no business being citizens. We are not patriotic. You know, when you say that President William Ruto says things today, the next day he changes his mind. You know, the president will look at the budget, which his parliament has done. And then I say, okay, you have budgeted that we build this road. This is good for me to launch. Then he launches it. Then funds fail to come. That is what I've just explained. Then you go and say the president lied. That is why I want to insist that we have the rear view mirror, because we believed those other ones worked well. If they worked well, why did they also launch projects that were never completed? Why did they launch systems that never went away? And why, Mwangale, let me tell you why we have a rear view mirror. When people are making noise ahead of you and telling you to turn right, definitely you're not going to turn right without glancing at your rear view mirror. You are not going to make an emergency stop on the road because people are stopping you without glancing at your rear view mirror, in case somebody rams into you. When you want to reverse because people are refusing where you are taking them, you need to glance at your rear view mirror. Even changing lane alone, you need to glance at your rear view mirror. So when you call me obsessed with rear view mirror, I think I'm a better driver than you. I would really do very well. So, and when you, sorry.
I don't think the issue of who is a better driver was up in debate, but you mentioned the Auditor General. Mm-hmm. You know, the Auditor General, the basics are the Auditor General does his or her audit based on international accounting standards.
Exactly.
And international auditing standards. Mm-hmm. So in the case of Kenya, when she gives an audit opinion, it means our opinion is anchored in auditing standards and international standards.
Exactly.
And if the accounting officer has refused to answer queries, you expect her to give the accounting officer a red rose instead of raising questions?
No accounting officer has refused to give answers. As you speak to me, I want you to remember that I am head of a parastatal. And from time to time, we get audit reports. And those audit reports, they are queries we respond to. And after responding, if you see we have not gone to jail or we are not being investigated, we have satisfactorily explained.
The record states that the auditor raises their questions and gives accounting officers 14 days. Records from the National Assembly states there are a number of those accounting officers, including parastatal heads and principal secretaries, refuse to respond to those questions within 14 days. So now you want the Auditor General to go to a flower farm, pick red roses and give to all these accounting officers instead of forming an opinion.
If they are parastatal chiefs or State Department chiefs who have not responded within 14 days, that is now the work of EACC. We want to see them being arraigned.
No, EACC has no business in giving an audit opinion.
My friend, if you have not responded to that query, that is a crime, just like you have responded it and it is not satisfactory. It's the same story. So
say what the Constitution says about the Auditor General's report. Yes. Article 229 provides that the Auditor General prepares the report, within that period, and submits the report to Parliament. Now, what Parliament can do, first of all, we have to understand why the reports are necessary. Among other things, the Auditor General should tell the country whether public funds have been used lawfully and effectively. Effectively deals with, the result of where, funds have been utilized. But after the Auditor General has prepared the report, it is submitted to Parliament, and the only thing Parliament can do is to debate the report and take appropriate action. So we are not talking about the EACC at that level.
Correct.
So these audit queries that have arisen and they have not been responded to, and in most instances we know that if an accounting officer has refused to answer those queries or to respond to them, there is some malfeasance that is being hidden. So what Parliament can do, and it has failed to do this in many instances, is to, for example, recommend that prosecution follows for certain individuals. One of the things that it has not done is to recommend surcharging of certain accounting officers. So once the Auditor General's report has been submitted, it is not even up to Parliament to verify. It is not even up to Parliament to verify the Auditor General's report. It can only debate and then offer appropriate remedies. And those appropriate remedies could have a range of far-reaching consequences. So the issue about the Auditor General's report being verified beyond an accounting report does not exist in law. I think that we have to make clear. So when the Auditor General has said that funds have not been utilized effectively and lawfully, Parliament cannot reverse the Auditor General's report. You cannot reverse, the report of an auditor, unless you're now getting into another audit exercise, auditing the auditor's, report.
Yeah, before it comes in, let me offer clarity. Before the Auditor General gives, in the Kenyan case, a final opinion, they go through the first step is to get the letter of clarity, so the parties understand what the process is all about. Yeah. Then they give a management letter, then they give an interim report. When they've got questions, before the auditor gives a final opinion, and it could be unqualified, qualified, adverse, or a disclaimer, she'll give the accounting officer 14 days. Now, most of these accounting officers are notorious for ignoring those questions. Now, when they ignore those queries, then the Auditor General gives a report, said, based on the information I have, I'm unable to form a solid opinion how these resources have been utilized. So maybe I'm giving an adverse report or a disclaimer. And then, of course, now the report goes to the National Assembly. The point I'm trying to stress is you cannot blame the Auditor General for giving an opinion anchored on accounting standards and auditing standards, and you cannot blame her for giving a report because the accounting officer has refused to respond questions in the specified time.
That is true.
I want you to also listen to me.
Of course.
I have not said that the Auditor General's report is wrong. I have said for the newspaper to come and screen looted, and when you go to the report, there is no looted. There is no... What the Auditor General gives that goes to Parliament, that can also even proceed to EACC, is not an indictment on whoever did it. It is a report. This is what we see. This came from Exchequer. This is what we have seen as done work. So that is when you begin to find out why. That is not a final thing. That is just a report. And you need to find what is the meaning of a report.
Dismus, Owidi is saying that the media has a wrong choice of words.
Yes.
He's saying the media should not say money has been looted. Let us use the language of the Auditor General, who says it appears in her estimation that funds were lost. I think misappropriated.
Or not well utilized.
Yeah, but looted is something that...
grammar.
It's not grammar. They choose to make it sensational. They choose to make the hoi polloi out there think there is a big sanduku in treasury where somebody went and picked the money and went and did all he wanted to do for himself and not for the country.
But why don't accounting officers respond to the audit queries?
That is you telling me. I don't know about that. I am also, there's also an accounting officer under me, and I don't think she has any problem with those things. We have done it. And you see, one thing I want to say, in all those things you have said, Parliament, EACC, where does the president come in? We need to tell Parliament, you are above even the president, you can impeach him. So let us not blame the president for what Parliament has failed to do. President does not have any powers to order Parliament to do what they ought to do.
Again, choice of words. Let us blame Parliament for taking monies from the president or for being
You have not seen anything like that.
For being bought
No.
by the president.
I
think we are removing
taking money
blame
from the president. I think that you cannot defend. You know, when people see others do things that they didn't want them to do, they say, if they have not done this, they must have been paid. No. Don't everybody think
but
like
members of Parliament have come out to say
not everybody think like those very ones that they came out to say if they ever did.
But
those are the ones
they're in Parliament, right?
There's nobody has taken money. By the way, you hear Rigathi, after the day was impeached, he said people were paid 4 million. And then he come and say they have admitted. Nobody has admitted. There is nobody who has come to say I was paid. We know when people make...
Owidi members of Parliament have admitted that number one, this budget...
Tell me who admitted he got money for what?
That is budgeted corruption. Others say...
That is not admitting, that is suggesting there's budgeted corruption.
Yeah.
Even me, I would say when there is corruption, it is budgeted for, because there is no money we spend outside the budget. Okay. So if there is money that we stole, it must have been budgeted for so that we steal it.
Now, again, you've gone back to semantics. But members of the National Assembly have indicated that they are given 10,000 bob in khaki envelopes to influence their decision-making capacity. Who gives the 10,000 bob?
I don't agree with you about the giving, so don't ask me who gives. You know, I would only say so-and-so gives after I have admitted that it is given.
This thing is in the public space.
No, but
we are not going to bet rumors in the public. We are going to beget documents that is presented before us. There's something I wanted to say, because soon you will tell me nimeongea mingi, but you see, there was a case here which Mwangale presented, saying that Ruto must take responsibility for the mistakes of Uhuru Kenyatta. And I want to remind you that these DPs have no proper portfolio. These DPs are principal assistant to president. There's nothing they can do other than those delegated to them by the president. So if the president has chosen to give you no powers, no portfolios, no responsibilities, you can have none. And there is nowhere where the DP is supposed to oversight the president. Yet, the president can do anything he wants to do without reference to their DPs. So to come and say that President William Ruto must take responsibility for mistakes of Uhuru Kenyatta, a man they parted ways with on 9th of March 2018, when walisalimiana na Raila pale Harambee House, I think is to take Kenyans for a ride. Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto parted. In fact, the reason why William Ruto survived to the end of that parliamentary term was because he had numbers behind him, which I must admit were largely from Mount Kenya, Rift Valley, and some other corners of the country. If Uhuru Kenyatta had the numbers, Ruto would have not finished his 5 years as a DP, just like Gachagua didn't finish.
So you are suggesting that there was a handshake between President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga?
Yes, there was.
Which was unacceptable.
I don't know whether it was acceptable or not. But because for me, it never offended me.
Okay.
Even this one didn't offend me.
You've dodged a bullet. Now, having dodged the bullet, you've dodged a bullet. Mwangale, you may have heard of the Boston Tea Party, 16th December 1773, and you know, those in Boston Harbor, a lot of tea was thrown into the ground. Of course, you know, then we have the Boston Tea Party, which created ways for a revolution in the US, and the US attained independence. But outside the Boston Tea Party, a few weeks ago, we were treated to Chapati politics in Nairobi, and the entire city spent weeks on end discussing chapatis, the number of chapatis which can be made in an hour, the number of chapatis which can be made in Nairobi. And one would have expected that Kenya would be having a conversation around how we can make Nairobi superior to Geneva, superior to New York, how we can make Nairobi a very solid state. In fact, a respected member of the Senate, if my memory is right, is Ben Kalwale said, this idea of giving people chapatis, this idea of giving people food is unwelcome. Give parents capacity to buy food for their children. You know, when you're giving people food in some communities, it's actually called bullying, that you are demeaning these people. So a reasonable man would come to the opinion that Nairobi has got the priorities upside down, that one of the key performance indicators for the Nairobi administration is the number of chapatis you can make in a day, but not the quality of infrastructure in the city.
And that's true. And I sympathize with Nairobians quite a bit.
So you sympathize with yourself?
I do. Sometimes you move around the city and it's depressing, because you look at the potential that Nairobi has, not just because Nairobi is a capital city, but the potential that Nairobi has because it collects the amount of revenue it collects, on-source revenue, and you're just saddened by what Nairobians get. Somehow our politics have made it very normal that a politician will come and do something small, give a few handouts, and will be glad that he has done something. Even before the president's chapati machine utterance, the first person who mentioned chapati machine was Sakaja, and asked the president in that rally to help him procure a machine or machines that would make 1 million chapatis. For whatever reason, Sakaja finds that he needs 1 million chapatis. That beats me. But one of the things that Nairobians could be getting if they had a good leader, unfortunately, Nairobi has not had a good leader since 2013. What we've had is people masquerading as leaders. You had the first governor who had a history of maladministration where he came from, looted the country, the county, disappeared. The second governor came in and he was very successful at activities that were away from the county government than what he had been elected to do. Sakaja came in again with a manifesto that was very flowery, and the only thing that he can do is to ride on an innocent lady's project of feeding school children, and now he's all about feeding school children. He's making those of us who will now come and say you need to do more appear as though we do not care about our children, because he's about feeding the children. So if you come out and say, Sakaja, you need to do more for Nairobi, he will come out and say, you don't want children to be fed. You know, children are being fed by as little as 5 shillings in school. So we have sunk very low. And the very fact that we were discussing chapatis for more than 1 week tells us how shallow we have become. But zeroing down on Nairobi County before now going national, one of the things that Nairobi County has excelled at is hooliganism in the politics of Nairobi, right from the city council days. County councillors were always fighting. In fact, I think the other county councils borrowed fighting from Nairobi. And anyone who has won a seat in Nairobi County, beginning with the governor, down to members of Parliament and County Assembly, if you ask them how much of hooliganism participated in the election, they will probably tell you, a very huge percentage, because we have normalized hooliganism. There was a time when, Sakaja was being fought left, right, and center. He would go to places, he would be stoned, and then that stopped. He should explain to us what magic he did to have people stop stoning him. It's not because he started solving their problems. Toy Market, where he was stoned the other day, is still not a market that should be in the capital city. So one of the things that Nairobi County ought to do, the citizens, they ought to elect send people into office, at least at the bare minimum. Because with a send person, you would identify that when people complain that their roads are bad, you don't rush to tell them, but you know that is a Kura road, it's not even mine. Or you know that is a Kenha road, it's not even mine. You talk to the national government. You would not have a scenario that we have in the CBD where, and by the way, if you wanted to know whether a governor is a good governor or not, and especially for Nairobi, just go to City Hall Way, say on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and you'll see how vehicles are parked on the curbs, and there's only one lane when City Hall Way is supposed to be a dual lane. And if at the office of the governor, just around the office of the governor, there is that kind of disorder, what would you expect in Eastleigh? To date, there are roads in Eastleigh that are flowing with sewage. A business hub that would be contributing greatly to the city of Nairobi. Today, you can't leave on a weekday, you can't leave Nairobi CBD and go to Eastleigh and expect to be back within an hour. You should budget for around 3 hours because the traffic in Eastleigh itself is very bad. There is totally, no order. And the same goes, to all places in Nairobi. I have been to some places in Kibera, in Eastlands. You have CBOs collecting garbage. The governor will tell you that there's a green army. That's what he calls it. That is giving jobs to the youth. They are, greening the city. They are cleaning the city. And you have CBOs who come around in mikokotenis. Garbage collection in many parts of Nairobi by this is done on mikokotenis. It's just that we see these garbage lorries and we think the city has everything in order. So they would come, clean, they would dredge the trenches, remove the garbage that has accumulated and it's stinky, heap it on the side of the road. That garbage would stay there for about 2 weeks drying because mkokoteni you can't carry liquid garbage, so it will dry, stinking in the environs, and then after 2 weeks they will come with the mkokotenis and then now carry some of that garbage. It is the way things are being run. And somehow it has been so normalized that when garbage is collected in after 2 weeks, we would clap for the governor because amekusanya takataka. We should be having a city that collects garbage, if not twice a week, on a weekly basis, across the county. The fact that a very simple role, it's a constitutional mandate, by the way, garbage collection and all those things, it's a constitutional mandate for the county. The county does not have its own garbage collection system. When you go towards Jogoo Road, I think when you're heading now to Makongeni, we used to have a garbage recycling facility there. I don't know what they turned it into, but that is what the design of the past had been. I think those in the Kenyatta government, Jomo Kenyatta government, were more forward-looking. But the county government of Nairobi, it's not just Nairobi, even other counties, does not collect its own garbage. You have companies, small-time companies that are doing garbage collection across the county. That alone could be the greatest employer of youth in Nairobi County. But we are just content with, we have a green army, they're getting, a few wages daily and that kind of thing. And it is spread across. It is very unfortunate for this county. It is the same thing that is happening at national level. It's not that Sakaja is unique. Even at national level, we are content with very small things when we could be getting more. Looking at government services, you look at government buildings and government institutions and the security services around government institutions. You walk to Nyayo House, you walk to GPO, walk to other institutions, and government has subcontracted security. You have now private firms that are offering guard services. Why can't government get that on its own? Why do we have government, getting firms to build their roads? We have a history of government doing its own roads. I don't know why, by the way, we did away with the Ministry of Roads and Public Works. After the tiff between Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki, and that ministry was done away with, you had government machinery across the country. You had those Ministry of Public Works compounds. The machinery there was left rotting. And then we now embarked on the contracting and entrepreneuring, system that we adopted. So if we ought to get government services, we need to decide to send people at the bare minimum.
Owidi.
Yes, sir.
Who said Chapati is the answer to our socio-economic development challenges?
Whenever I sit here, as that lady said, I am normally sycophant number one. So,
Sycophant in chief.
Chapatis in Nairobi, it has already been an ongoing project. It did not begin with the President William Ruto's rallies in Nairobi. It's been there. So when the president appeared in the streets of Nairobi, the Nairobi governor requested that the central government help them procure a machine that can make 1 million chapatis in a day.
Because that's the biggest challenge facing Nairobi.
Yes, okay. I also have issues with that, just like my friend Mwangale has. But one thing I wanted to make clear, this is not a national government project. It is not a President William Ruto project. It is a Sakaja project. It is a Nairobi County project. Just like the president has helped all other counties because they are separate but interdependent, he decided to accept this request from Sakaja. But when I see people on the streets, they are talking about the president, a Chapati president. In fact, I hear they are calling him what? El Chapo. I've heard they have nicknamed him El Chapo. But this was not his project. In fact, even if he had said no to Sakaja request, he would have still been called El Chapo. You say yes, you are doomed. You say no, you are doomed. So whatever the case, when some people have decided to be against you, they will. In that whole journey, I remember the president announced some 4 billion for rehabilitating the Nairobi roads. Nobody wants to talk about that because it is positive. They want to talk about what they believe is not positive, which is not even the president's project. So that brings me to Mwangale's complaints. We cannot turn county governments into NGOs. These are governments, miniature governments like the central government. They should make it easy for people to do business, easy for people to move, easy for people to get health care, easy for people to get education. But when you find county governments now buying seeds and giving citizens, how do they decide who to give and who not to give? Cooking chapatis for people, they should make it easy for schools to make chapatis for the children. But you see, they want to bring the whole procurement, all that, into the central government of the county so that you know what can happen. So I think I don't agree with this. I've seen it not only in Nairobi, many other counties. Some counties are buying tractors and giving people. Some counties are buying seeds and giving the citizen. Some are buying fertilizer and giving the citizens. The best they can do is give those fertilizers at subsidized prices, so they subsidize those ones. That they can do. But when they do it to give, it is simply to buy votes. It's simply to reward supporters. That is what they are doing. So I think the government should come clear that county governments are not NGOs. They are governments.
So you successfully contradicted yourself because you said county governments and the business is not making chapatis, but when the president offers to buy a chapati making machine, it's okay.
No, you see, if you ask me to buy for you a beer, I know it is wrong for your health, but because you want it and I love you, I'll buy it for you.
No, if you love him, you don't buy it.
No. I will give it to you. Because you are, in any case, if you want to die, why should I prevent you from dying? You die. You die loving me.
Mwangale, at this stage, could you give me the definition of murder?
No. No.
That is the exact definition.
There was also something we talked about here. That when we are a country discussing chapos for weeks on end, the people who have been discussing chapos, making suits for the president in chapos, making coffees for the president in chapos, they are those hired detractors of the president. They are those hired enemies of the government. So they can discuss it even for 3 years. They can. It is not the president to stop them. It is not the president to decide for them. It is not the president who invited them to discuss it for those many days. But there was something very interesting, which you said here, which is very profound. That when you ask these people that such a road is bad, the response is, oh, that is Kera, oh, that is Kura, oh, that is constituency. Let me tell you, we are elected as leaders, and we should do our work. And there are those ones who are elected to be representatives of the people, who are supposed to ask those questions on behalf of the people. And they are practically members of parliament at the national level. These people will never give you you tell them this, oh, Iuni County. You tell them, they are the oversighters of the national government. Besides oversighting the national government, they are the representatives of the people. Now, when they are representative of the people, they are representative of the people at any level now. Whatever the answer the people want, even if it is out of a private organization, they should give an answer that huyo jamaa anachimba migodi hapo, it is A, B, C, D.
So you're immunizing governors from these questions?
No. The MPs should even question the governors. They have the powers to invite governors for questioning. So when you find we have MPs who run away from responsibilities and from questions that the citizens ask them, then you know how incompetent MPs we have around. So many of them, I think about 75%, are not fit even to be MCAs, and they are sitting in the National Assembly. Some of them, when they want to write their own names, they remove their IDs and copy those names from those IDs. And when you find them in funerals in the village, they roll like mature lions. And these days, they have even formed groups with county government. So when they have some goons they want to be using, they request county governments to employ them as enforcement officers. So while they are in their counties, they can be used as goons against the would-be opponents for the MPs in the next elections.
So the goons Mwangale was talking about earlier on are now being employed by county governments?
They are. And you see, this is something I can say even in court, if I have to. Because I've seen them, I have evidence, and I know them. So,
but do you have evidence that they are paid by these politicians?
They are not paid by the politicians. They are employed by the county government. They earn a salary.
No, for goon activities.
For the goon activities, if I have helped you to secure a job in the county government, and I call you to defend me with a punk, I say, you will do that. That's what they are doing. But like Nairobi, as you are saying, Mwangale, I agree with you on this garbage thing. The county governments, especially in the cities, but worst of all in Nairobi, have reduced themselves to garbage collectors once in a while. What they should be doing, they should be managing the sanitation of this city, managing it, making sure that even that garbage they want to collect does not find itself in public places in the streets. I have never heard the county government of Nairobi talk about something that discourages people from littering the city, putting places where people can take their garbage nearer to the people. You find a very public place, there is not even a dustbin where you can throw the butt of a cigarette, where you can throw a receipt you don't want to carry home, where you can throw a package you find in your hands and you can't take it away. We don't have it. So what they are reduced themselves is to collect the garbage. They should not be people who are running after things have happened. They should be managing sanitation, ensuring that people do not throw garbage everywhere and all over the place. But when you come here, even here in Kilimani, the roads are terrible. You can't even pass those roads, even on a four-wheel. And we have a county government. What does a budget of 40 billion do if it cannot do these roads? If it cannot manage, let alone collect garbage?
Now,
so
let me read this for you verbatim. Mr. Mwangale says, can Mr. Owidi advise the president to be clear on what he promises? Because for many Kenyans, we are really doubting our president.
Okay, I have heard that. Is there another one?
Yes, there's another one.
So are you promising to advise the president?
No, the president is listening to me even now. You see, the president is very clear. You know, when you are the spokesman of the nation, and the nation, through their elected representatives, have budgeted to do 1, 2, 3. It is now upon you to go and tell the country that your government will do for you 1, 2, 3. If that is not done, that the money that was budgeted to do that, for one reason or the other, is unavailable, that does not make the president a liar. He would be a liar if your elected representatives had budgeted that something be done and the president refuses or fails to tell the people. So I think telling the president is a lie. The president does not have a magic wand that he says this road will be built. He just flashes it and the road is built. There are other aspects of it. There are other officers who now have to implement it. If they have not implemented it, then we now go back and look at the rear view mirror and see where did the rain start beating us. But
another member of the audience is asking whether, from where you're seated, the president has ever done anything wrong.
President William Ruto? Yes. If he has done anything wrong, which is natural for human beings, it is not intentional. Are you answered?
Well, I suspect the member of the audience has got an answer.
Yes, I'm told you. So,
there's a saying that says, not even the devil knows the intentions of man. But Owidi is saying, if William Ruto has done anything wrong, he did not mean.
But if you people can even say that you know that some people were given money, those people have not shown you the money, they have not told you they were given money, but you know. So, this is an analysis. From facts, figures, and logic we have on the table, we can analyze.
These are issues which have been raised at the National Assembly. The members of the National Assembly have confessed that when they go to the bathrooms, they're given khaki envelopes as low as
they never said who gives them. Why are we supposed to assume it's the president?
No, nobody said it's the president or any other person. But we said that upon receipt of this 10,000 bob, they changed their position on how they're going to vote. But that's maybe a conversation for another time, which may again open us to libel and slander. So, Mwangale.
Mokua, let me just say something about the public works, because this one, Mwangale talked about it and it was a very good thing. Department of Roads and Public Works. It still does exist. The only thing it no longer does is doing the roads by government machinery. This thing changed.
They used to be yellow trucks.
We used to call them a PWD. APWD works. And they used to do these things. But I think at one point in time, it was discovered within government that when these things are done by government departments, the people in those departments were unable to get their kickbacks properly. But I want to teach them something. Whenever money is there, it doesn't matter what it is going to do. You can still get that kickback you want. Maybe when now you go to buy this equipment. Maybe when you now want to pay the allowances of the workers who spend their days on the roads to do. But all that money, assuming the government budgeted with 4 trillion, that 4 trillion will all have to be used. So if you're a thief, run for where it is being used and steal it from there. Instead of stopping good things like having the government do its roads using its own engineers and its own workers. It creates jobs for those people. Of course, I know private sector also creates jobs, but this thing was stopped long time ago. I think either in the early days of President Moi or the final days of President Kenyatta.
No.
Because I remember I was in primary school, and I'm not like you. I was last in primary school in 1981.
Owidi, you're a public servant encouraging engineers to steal.
No. If you don't teach people by what they already know, they will never understand you. Because if I talk without saying that, they will be saying, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Where are we going to get our... I'm telling them they will still get their kickback. So let's save the people too much money going into hands of people who will never return them.
By encouraging them to steal.
I'm not encouraging them. I'm just telling if they must steal, this is what they got.
Would you remember who is the minister who presided over the reforms in the roads construction sector?
I don't remember. Raila Odinga was here yesterday. What reforms?
And I mean, he's the one who spearheaded reforms in the public works.
What did he change?
Ministry.
Kerakura.
What did he change?
The Roads Act came in...
anyway, I don't want to talk about Raila. Let's discuss...
No, we're talking about the ministry. While
for the second time again, he has dodged a bullet. These are some of the benefits of the handshake. Mwangale, please give us your controversial opinion.
This evening when I was coming here, I saw a vehicle that was branded Sudi Support Team. And because it was in Nairobi, I didn't see the photo clearly at first. But when I got round to the vehicle, I discovered the Sudi they were talking about is Oscar Sudi. And I have been looking at what most of our elected leaders concentrate their efforts on, and it is not what they have been elected to do. Governor Sonko, when he was governor, excelled at the Sonko rescue team more than he did services at the county. You have now, Sudi support team, you have Kimani Wamatangi Foundation, you have Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation. The other day, Natembeya was launching his George Natembeya Foundation. And all these people have, foundations and things that they are running on the side. Things that are consuming, money. And they have public offices. So they have now moved to, doing the services they would, offer to Mwananchi through their public offices, through public funds. They are now providing those services on the side. It is as though you have employed a chef in a restaurant. And instead of the chef cooking in the restaurant's kitchen, they have their own kibanda outside the restaurant where they are cooking. So instead of people coming into the restaurant, they are going to their kibanda, and occasionally they would get food from the kibanda and serve in the restaurant. And I think for us going forward, we must resist, in as much as it is hard, in as much as we are at a place where socioeconomically we must be dependent on some of these politicians. We must start resisting these side hustles, politician side hustles. Let us insist that they serve us from the offices they have been elected to. Let us insist that they use the public funds we have entrusted to them to serve us, and not through their side hustles.
In the name of public interest and as a lawyer, would you consider public litigation?
I engage in public litigation.
This would be something worth your consideration. Owidi, I hope you're not encouraging public servants to steal. What is your controversial opinion?
My controversial opinion, number one, I want in this country to make it a policy. I don't mean a law. I don't mean that whenever we are appointing a deputy governor to a man, it must be a lady. And whenever we are appointing a deputy governor to a lady, it should be a man.
Have you heard of Donald Trump?
Yeah, I know him.
And Day?
I don't know. Day ni nani?
Okay, go on.
So number two, I would like people like Mwangale, my friend. I have liked this Mwangale because he's not only eloquent. When Mwangale is speaking, even if you put things in your ear, you will get the words come out very clearly. Mwangale, I would like you to help us. I would love to have this constitution revised such that county governments, devolution does not devolve governments, but devolve funds. That is why CDF seem to work better than the devolve funds. In fact, if you walk into the countryside, you will see the work done by CDF. For example, in my county, there are 8 constituencies. The maximum CDF they get there is 150 million times 8.
Which county is this?
This is the county of Homa Bay. So this is around 1.2 billion. The work done by that 1.2 billion, including the ones for managing that fund, is evident and visible. Yet the work done by 10 times that money through the county government is not evident, is not seeable, is not anywhere. I have just used the county government of Homa Bay because it is the one I have facts and figures at my fingertips. I would have used any other county, including Kwale or Mombasa. So, having devolved governments, we have devolved everything else that was wrong with the national government that made us demand for devolution. We have devolved all those wrong things. So when they go there, if they were thieves, they still steal there, equal measure, except that what they steal is less and there are fewer people. So we have not solved any problem using devolution if we devolve government. We should have devolved the funds and we would be doing very well now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May God bless you.
No, you haven't answered the final question.
What was the final question?
Are you planning to run for governor, Umabe?
I have no intention of running for governor anywhere in this country, nor any other seat. Thank you.
That has been Fireside, the home of politics, policy, and polity. Thanks for your time. Asante sana.